We're here with Nicholas, one of the co-conference chairs of the SoCal AILA conference this year. He was previously AILA chapter president in SoCal, and he's also the board of governors for AILA. How's the conference so far?
The conference is very good, Joseph. People came in with empty cups, and I think throughout the day and a half, going on 2 days, 2.5 days, people are being refilled in a way that, not saying they didn't expect it, but I do feel like you sometimes forget that we're not alone, and that when we get together, it's really the greatest thing we can do to remind each other it's not over, it will get better, and sometimes to remind ourselves to focus on the wins and not always be so obsessed with the cases we're unable to win.
How is this year different than the previous years?
Well, I think we're now in a state of crisis in a way that even in the first Trump administration, where it really does feel like the rule of law is kind of collapsing. And you know, how does a firefighter put out a burning fire when all of a sudden the fire can't be put out by water, right? All of a sudden the things that have been bedrock aspects of the practice and the law is no longer being abided by. From what I understand, numbers ended up going through the roof as far as attendees. This may be one of the best, if not the highest attended California conference.
Oh, wow.
And this is, I think, our 38th year. When you are a co-chair, when you do a decent amount of the planning, at least on the local level, at the very least, you hope people show up.
What is some of the key takeaways for everybody who couldn't attend? What is something you want to share with the rest of the AILA chapter?
The big one is always the same. You're not alone. What you're going through, the questions you don't know how to answer, the clients you're not seemingly able to help. There is a member, there is a colleague, there is a neighbor that is doing the same thing and have already solved those problems. When in doubt, pick up the phone. When in doubt, send an email. When in doubt, text somebody, because that NEW NOID you just got on a case you thought was a slam dunk, and now statuses of question. If you have a client who was detained at a simple adjustment interview and now you're like, you know, what do? I don't do detention work. I understand habeas is a thing, but what is that? That initial crisis, I think the key thing about this conference is, all right, well, somebody else does, so pick up the phone. You know, whether it's conversations of wellness, conversations of practice management, ethics, of course, fighting the fight as they continue to move the goalposts, reminding each other that we are going to be doing this longer than they're going to be doing this. This administration, their time and power is numbered. We're now in a moment we have to remind ourselves. Sometimes delaying things and pushing things off to next month, next year, maybe that's a win, even if it doesn't feel like it.
Hi.
Congrats on such a wonderful conference. You did a great job, one of the highest turnout. How do you feel?
Thank you. I appreciate you coming to speak. We always enjoy your expertise. I think the conference has been great. People kind of need to be re-energized right now with everything going on, and I feel like that has been the general tone, that people feel like, okay, I've got more knowledge, I've got people in my corner to help me if I don't have the knowledge.
I really pulled different attorneys aside and say, hey, how do you like the conference? What are you learning? And a lot of people have been saying, there's so many things that I didn't know before. I've been practicing for like 20 years. You really do get to learn a lot, and seeing old faces come together. Building that community is really, really important. What do you see for AILA this next coming year?
I think it's super exciting that the annual conference coming up is on the West Coast for the first time in a long time. Having it in San Diego, I think that's kind of the big thing coming forward with AILA, both national and California, right? Because we got the San Diego chapter hosting, and I know they're going to do an excellent job.
You know, for the people who couldn't come to the conference, what do you have to share with them about next year?
I personally am on the SoCal Advocacy team. We had a great meeting at the conference talking about what our local chapters can do with the midterm election coming up this year and how we can push positively for immigration changes and to make sure that candidates are running and being supported, gearing up for National Day of Action and doing more local advocacy with congressional offices, I think is going to be a big focus for next year.
How did you get into this space? Everybody kind of picks their own lane and their own vision. So what kind of immigration attorney are you? I mean, you do so much. Why?
Back in undergrad, my cousin was engaged to someone from Italy, and every time he would come in to visit her, he would get harassed by CBP. Just horrible things. That fire to help people in unimaginable circumstances is what helps me choose what I want to do and the type of cases that I take on. And as a solo, it's one of the best things is that you have that freedom to choose. You know, it may be one of the more difficult cases, but I want to be there for that person.
A lot of solo practitioners focus much more on, let's say, marketing or business process, and they don't spend any time volunteering, and they definitely don't spend any time serving AILA as a secretary, treasurer, chair, board of governor, advocacy liaison, and I'm only listing those because those are all things I know you have done in the past 10 years. Why do you do so much for AILA?
Everyone is doing it, wanting to further immigration practice for the better, help our community of attorneys that are practicing, and help the immigrant community at large. I feel like AILA has given me a lot, so why wouldn't I give back to it as well? For me, positive work that helps someone else is the best marketing that I could ever do. So I just focus on that and hope that everything else falls into place from a management perspective.
It's because of people like Megan that we have the AILA that we have today. She planned the conference with Nicholas, among others. She ran the AILA Southern California chapter, and she put her heart into it, and so that AILA attorneys, people who are the members, whether they come to the conference or not, but we benefit so much. So thank you for this conference. It was amazing, one of the biggest turnout, and everybody got so much out of it to be able to power them, juice them up for at least another year until the next conference. Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome. It's not without help. I've got great people helping me with everything that I choose to do. Got a great team here in SoCal, a great team nationally that helped with the conference. Everything is done with help from the right people.